We're good.
Regular meeting of the council board. They will start. Last one, now, we also had a public hearing last.
Roll call.
Oh, excuse me, yes, roll call.
Council President Suzanne Souter.
Present.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
Here.
Councilperson Nerman Dubaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mataway.
Here.
Also in attendance, Mayor Valerie Leary. Chief of Police Richard McCabe. City Solicitor Max Walton and City Planner Chris Rogers.
Minutes of the February 13th regular meeting. There was also a public hearing that night. Those minutes are being prepared. So,
I believe they should have been in the packet. If they're not, they were prepared, so they're not in the packet.
So are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of February 13th meeting?
Make a motion. Approve the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then approved. The treasurer's report, Ms. Carlin is unable to be with us tonight. So I will give her report. She submitted her written report, but she's just unable to be here. The total unrestricted funds are $9,626,335.04. The total restricted funds are $2,231,530.02. And our total cash in accounts is $11,857,865.66. Questions from council, I'm afraid I'm not able to answer them, but we could submit them via email. We're in a transition period. This would have been Ms. Carlin's final meeting as treasurer. She's stepping down, and given that she's attended lots of meetings for 21 years, she's probably not going to be at meetings future, so, for a while at least. So I'm going to do this now. I'm going to move it forward. It's for council. It's in your new business item number 1. It's a resolution to honor retiring city treasurer Janet Farwell. And I'll read it. Resolution 2024-08, a resolution to honor retiring city treasurer Janet Carlin. Whereas Janet Carlin has served as city treasurer since 2000, serving with 6 mayors and 7 council presidents. And whereas Ms. Carlin has always demonstrated impeccable integrity and devotion to the best interests of the city of Newcastle. And whereas Ms. Carlin was elected to the office of treasurer 8 times prior to the conversion of the position to an appointment by the city council. Her broad support throughout the community was shown by her landslide victory in the first election and the lack of an opponent in all subsequent ones. And whereas Ms. Carlin worked to implement the city's accounting method and budget process, and whereas Ms. Carlin's exceptional work in the office of treasurer has consistently gone responsibilities throughout her more than 23 years of service to the residents of the city of Newcastle. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Newcastle hereby adopts this honorary resolution in recognition of Janet Carlin's long-standing, substantial, and generous service to the city of Newcastle and all its citizens. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
At the presentation copy, which I'll ask all of you to sign before we leave tonight, and I will give it to Ms. Carlin. Okay, the administrative report for the city administrator. The floating pier is finally moving forward. I have good news. Atlantic Subsea was the bidder selected for this project in late 2022, but the delay in securing the necessary permits from DENREC meant that bid. Recently, they agreed to the project for the amount they originally did. Mr. Walton reviewed the contract. We have proof of insurance, and the city signed the contract this morning, this afternoon, today. The first step will be to drill 2 test pilings to obtain the necessary information about the riverbed, so they know how deep they have to set the pilings. Now, DENREC does not allow any pilings to be installed in the Delaware River between March 15th and June 30th. And I think this is because that's shad spawning season, and it kicks up mud and that would disrupt the shad. So the installation can't begin until after June 30th. However, Atlantic Subsea will use this time for design and planning. There are things they can do on the project to be ready to start installing after June 30th. The status of paving at 6th and Delaware. If you've been in the area, you've noticed that the work on the curb replacement is in progress. We don't know yet when the paving will begin, as it depends on the weather. The blacktop plants don't open until it's consistently warmer weather. The city is in the midst of its recertification for a flood insurance rating with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration. This process revealed that we, along with most municipalities in Delaware, need to update our building code to follow new regulations regarding the placement of heating and air conditioning units and other features in new construction. To maintain this rating, maintaining this rating saves residents money on their flood insurance premium. So tonight we have the first reading of an ordinance to update that code. Just to update you on the activities of the Flood Mitigation Committee, they met on February 20th. And they don't really have an update from the Natural Resources Conservation Service project, which is the big flood control project. The delay in passing a federal budget has had some impact, as did the illness of the local administrator of the project. Committee Chair Alice Reel is trying to get an updated information. Kevin Donnelly of the Newcastle County Conservation District was also at the meeting, and he said that this is the biggest NRCS project in Delaware. He expects full completion of the project with, planning, engineering, and construction. The whole thing is 7 years out. It's a big project. He also complimented the committee on their work. And in addition, the committee is reviewing the information on the city's website regarding actions residents can take to protect themselves during the flood event, and they hope to recommend some updates as needed. The project to design a page for the city's website listing pending building projects is underway. University students, the Delaware students working on it. Other city websites with similar information to get some ideas of others handle it and are starting to design the process. And that's it from the city administrator. Mr. Berkman is not here. Communication on this today.
Sure, just pick up. So, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we did have 2 events, but we only have the litter crew. Both events were very well attended. We had one event on the 18th of February at 3 p.m. where we did the areas of like 7th Street and Washington Street. And we had about 25, 26 volunteers. We had another event on the 3rd of March. And we did the ferry cutoff area. We had about 32, 34 volunteers, collected 36 bags of trash. Our next event is on March 24th at 3 p.m. We're going to meet at the Little League and we're going to concentrate on the area of Frenchtown Road. I also attended the outreach event that we had with the mayor on Saturday at Buttonwood School with the mayor and Councilman Mattaway. It was not very well attended, but we did have a few visitors, so it was nice to talk to our constituents. I also attended, I think, the shortest trustee meeting in history last week. it was maybe a total of 10 minutes. But I did attend that, and I do have some news tonight. We had been talking about and we set money aside, new AV system here for our meetings, so we could have a little bit better presentations. So if you remember, the last bid that we got was $37,162, which was a little bit more than we budgeted. At our mid-year budget review, we allocated the extra money for it. However, I repriced it, same company, just to freshen the bid up. And the new bid is actually $5,163 less. So our total is going to be $31,959, and hopefully we can get that done and installed here. That's all I have.
Mr. Bell?
Council Jay, thank you for the litter crew. I actually, went out for the last time. There was a lot of trash out there. So it was great to pick it all up, had a good time. Dog park. So, had a meeting on the dog park, pulling a request proposal together. Was thinking potentially doing design and construction, but we determined that we're gonna do a RFP for design only. And then we'll look to do a separate one for construction and then also for clearing the area. We're pulling that together, lots of changes to, what I put together. And then we're gonna get to talk to Max or someone for some legalese for request for a proposal to get everything in order. And then with the new administrator coming on board real soon, work with them to get it put out there for bidding.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Good evening, everybody. I first want to just say, Ramadan Mubarak to all those people celebrating, this month. Next update is, I'm sorry, guys, I hope you understand, but I will miss the next city council meeting because it's the same as the Eid, which is celebration for Muslims, kind of like Christmas. I don't know, trying to equate it to people, so I'm not missing a meeting. I know it's unexcused, but you know. I wanted to see, I see some people smoking at our playgrounds, so I wanted to, and I'm pretty sure we have signage, but can we look into either repositioning the signs or seeing if we can make bigger ones? This kind of doesn't put up a good picture as we're, you know. Colonial School District referendum passed, which is great news for our students, and the staff there. And hopefully that will reflect in upcoming years with, you know, not only grades, but also, morale in school and kids, you know, becoming great individuals after the school. One thing I want to note to everybody is just kind of prepare yourself for the, you know, upcoming taxes and stuff like that, so that, you know, as this thing rolls out, your budget is prepared for the household, to take on it and also submit the taxes. I don't know what the date is, April something. Please do vote for trustees in the upcoming election. Very important that we choose qualified candidates for all of our elected offices. Thank you, Mr. Day, for cleaning our city, help clean our city, because I know that our, you know, city already does a pretty good job of cleaning, but there's always litter around. So thank you guys for doing this. And my last thing, I just had to for city admin updates. Just gotta follow up to that. For the paving, does that include the Fifth Street? I know that was being talked about.
We haven't gotten into that, and it occurred to me, we first need to check. I don't know if the new gas lines have been installed between Fifth and Sixth Street, and if they haven't, it doesn't make any sense to pave it, because then they have to dig it up again.
Yeah.
And since Mr. Bertram's not here, I can't ask him about that.
And then the flood mitigation, does the new does a 7-year projection that was provided, does that include the current delay, or is that original projection?
I think he means 7 years from now, and that was my
Okay.
understanding of what he said.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Council President. I too would like to echo the sentiments of my fellow councilmen and Council President, everyone here, and thanking Councilman Joe Day for championing trash pickup. Thank you for doing that. Also like to thank Council President for her work over this extended period of time. We have a new city administrator coming on board, and she will be transitioning. And again, thank you for the guest. This town has lots of partnerships and organizations that have been around for a long time that have helped sustain us. But I'm also thankful and appreciative of new partnerships and new opportunities. And so I'm proud and happy to announce that Saturday, May the 4th, we'll be partnering with the Rodney Street Tennis Program to bring a free tennis clinic to children in our area from ages 5 and up. Children do not need a racket, and it's free. Please be on the lookout for additional advertising and marketing. And we just want children to come out and have fun. Secondly, I want to acknowledge the partnership of the Goodwill and Police Chief McCabe for their support of this other new endeavor that we're going to be doing coming up this summer. 38% of the population of Delaware is eligible to donate blood, yet only 4% donate. The Blood Bank of Delaware supports 19 hospitals on the Delmarva as the main supplier for blood products. So with that being said, on June the 1st, Saturday, Goodwill is generous enough to open up their facility, and we will be hosting a blood drive here in the city of Newcastle, where we have an opportunity to literally save someone's life. Again, June the 1st, it's going to be for several hours. So please come out. If you can donate, great. If you just want to come by and just lend some support and just hang out, that's okay too. But again, we have an ability to be community minded and to think about someone else and to save lives. Thank you, Council President.
Mr. Manaway, I just had one question. That at the tennis court on Battery Park?
Yes, at the Appleby Tennis Court.
Okay.
We've had some coordination and communications with the Sharp Newcastle Common as well, and they've been very helpful and in that regard as well.
And it's going to be publicized.
Yes, we plan on advertising in the Crier, in the Weekly, plan on tapping into Mr. John Reeves and his team to do some marketing. We're also going to do some advertising with our local school population in respect to the schools in the area.
Great, that's good, thank you. This is from the mayor. You don't have any.
We have heard a lot tonight about the trust, the litter pickup, and I think that the councilperson day for this initiative. There is a lot of trash out there. There's more than trash. There's that were tossed into the river and old traffic barrels that often and we gathered them all up and they went away. So thank you for that. To the Lions Club for joining in on that as well. A couple concerns were discovered with storm drain, and we've emailed Delta to kind of check them. So they're right there in the area where we were working. This week was a great success. Visitors and residents came together to enjoy the dining, and coupled with the nominations for many of our restaurants for Best of Delaware, I tried to get into Joseph's one night in the line, but like 45 minutes. Things back, I live here. This year also halal bite in the Tatiana, joined in with the farmers market and offered lunches for $15, and we're hoping to advertise that more for next year. I would also like to recognize Consuelo Petty for opening up the Buttonwood School and allowing us to meet there on Saturday. And just to remind the community that the Buttonwood School is available for events, safe outdoor area, as well as the indoor. There's a full kitchen. The next open mic night is Sunday, so those of you who can sing, dance, play instruments, read poetry, show up, have some fun. It was a standing room only the last time, and they're raising money for a good cause for Friendship House. The National Park Service didn't get back to me yet with the date for the resident preview. nor for the actual date during the week, at the end of April for the open house. And just one last thing, as we know, America 250 is coming up, and Newcastle is going to play a significant role. But right now, if any of you know teachers or other instructors, the United States America 250 Commission is sponsoring a test for students in grades 3 through 12. It's called America's Field Trip, and it's a contest that will invite students to essay and other creatives on their perspective of what America means to them. And then they will be judged and they'll have the opportunity to go on a variety of field trips to New York and other places throughout the United States. So if you know anyone, you can find more information at america250.org. Very simple, america250.org. And they have all the details you could want. And the deadline is May 7th. Thank you.
Okay, Council President Samar. I would like to note the passing of Ted Jocelyn, who many of you remember as the writer of Cobblestones, an online newsletter, and prior to that, he worked for the News Journal. He was often seen around town at city events with his hand-lettered press sign on his hat, and he called himself Peditor. And he was a great asset to the community. He had a lingering illness for the past few years of his life, so we haven't heard much from him lately, but he was a big part of our community for a significant amount of time. I recently met with two representatives of Goodwill Industries, which has a 90,000 square foot facility in the Center Point Industrial Park for sorting and packaging material for recycling. They're working to expand this operation to include grinding recycled glass into a fine sand-like substance which can be reused. If this is successful, they hope to try branching out into other recycling processes. They have to first, though, they're working to get the necessary permits, including one from DENRA, as their facility is within Delaware's coastal zone. And this is an expansion of a manufacturing process. They have to get that permit first before they can get permits from the city. So they're working on that, and Mr. Bergstrom has offered to help them with that as he can. And then later tonight, we're going to be considering ordinance 543, which would permit marijuana product manufacturing facilities and marijuana testing facilities, but prohibit marijuana on retail stores and cultivation facilities in the city of Newcastle. During the public hearing and later council considered ordinance last month, there were many comments from the public regarding why marijuana should or should not be legal. Our state legislature has already decided this issue when it passed the Delaware Marijuana Control Act. Marijuana sales become legal in 2025. Up to 30 retail outlets will be licensed statewide. The state legislature establishing this also permits municipalities to prohibit or otherwise regulate the operation of marijuana-related businesses within their jurisdiction. As proposed, ordinance 543, in accordance with the powers granted by the state, would permit marijuana product manufacturing facilities and marijuana testing facilities and prohibit marijuana retail sales and cultivation facilities in the city of Newcastle. For the benefit of council and everyone in attendance tonight, if you wish to speak on this issue, I ask that you please consider the relevance of your comments to the ordinance we're going to be considering tonight. I also want to address two questions about this ordinance which were raised last month that I didn't know the answers. I did some check with someone who does that. And here are the first question was, would ordinance 543 ban home cultivation of marijuana for personal consumption? And I checked with Mr. Walton's colleague, attorney Erica Sefton, who's very knowledgeable about our marijuana laws. She told me that home cultivation is still illegal under Delaware law, so this ordinance would have no impact on that. And the second question raised last month was, could we also ban the sale of CBD products in Newcastle? And Ms. Sefton explained that there is no equivalent provision under state law for prohibiting hemp-based CBD products as there is with marijuana products. Hemp is considered an agricultural commodity and is defined as a grain under Delaware law. So CBD products derived from hemp are regulated like food products. This is also true at the federal level, so the FDA is responsible for regulations. So I hope that clears up some questions from last time. And finally, when we get to public comments, again, we'll try to answer simple questions if we know the answers, but we can engage in extended discussion of any item not on the agenda. And remember to sign in and state your name and address. But before we move on with the rest of the agenda, we have a guest tonight, Scott Blomquist, the General Manager of the Municipal Services. We have a resolution regarding municipal services tonight, and rather than make Mr. Blomquist sit through our whole meeting, we're going to bump him to the point in the agenda.
Thank you.
For council, new business number 5, new patch.
Copies of my presentation. Yes, sir. Council has prepared a resolution. And that's the charter. If we're gonna go for a loan, we have to have council approval. So we're currently working on a loan to convert our granular activated carbon system, which is out at our cooling treatment facility, from carbon to resin, which is an ion exchange. There's some benefits to that. Our current carbon does a great job at removing PFAS contamination, what it was installed for, but it also picks up everything else, which then reduces its lifetime expectancy. So you have short life cycles on the carbon. We're going to change out about every 2 years. With the resin, the ion exchange, it'll be about 7 years. That's what we're projecting. We've been doing a pilot study for close to 4 years on it. Great results. So the loan is through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. It's a little over $1.1 million. Has a 2% interest rate through the duration of construction. Upon completion of our project, the loan is completely forgiven, so there's no payback. 100% debt forgiveness. So with that, we are looking for approval.
Then we have a question from the focus. There's an information sheet in your packet about this, and I think focus has some pretty hard to see any of this.
One question. Thank you for coming and thank you for the work that you do at the. And with respect to the maintenance that's being done, do you have any idea on once the project gets done, the future life cycle?
Yeah, so our life cycle on it is based on our pilot study that we've been doing for close to 4 years. We project the resin will last about 7 years before we'll have to do a change out on the resin. It's not any different mechanically than doing a change out on our carbon. They do a complete change out in a 1 day. But the life expectancy is 7+ years, so versus 2 years.
What is the maintenance of that look like ongoing? Like, is that something that's monitored monthly every so often?
We're required via state law to, every month we sample and to send it out. We have 2 vessels. They run in series. You're always monitoring your first vessel. As you get toward, with monitoring ports in it, as you get toward the bottom where you would have complete it's completely spent. Before you see it in your next one, you do a change out of the first vessel, and then you run the water the other way, so this one becomes your lead vessel, and the previous lead vessel, your lag vessel. So, but that's about every 2 years. The resin would be similar setup, a lead and a lag. You always have one that's doing all your heavy lift, the other one is just polishing and catching you for when you do expend the carbon or the resin. And, yeah.
I have any questions about this. Thank you for pursuing this. But can I ask you something else about here? I know that, so my question is about number of tenants that we potentially may have in the city. And I think I read in your report last year that we were not utilizing 100%, we're utilizing lower than 50% of the water capacity. Is that correct? Can you update me with that number?
So I think it depends on how you look at it. So we have an allocation, and I'm gonna pull the numbers off the top of my head. We do 100 gallons a minute. We pump about 400 to 500 gallons a minute. So from that aspect, it's half. Total pumpage per year, because we run and then we shut off, and we run and we shut off. So total, if you were thinking of it, a duration, it may not be half. I don't know that. I don't.
That's okay. And would there, as the new proposals are brought in front of the city potentially, do they ever come in front of you guys as well, to talk about, as part of the process, is there capacity? Or, as we, talk about these things as it comes to utilities that we provide, or?
So
Just
capacity,
curious.
so proposal for capacity, like.
For water, if they, 500 new units, let's say.
So, we're part of the discussion all through the whole project. Any developer, any projects that's coming, utilities are extremely important to them. So they start, you have to make sure we're copying emails right from the beginning, so.
I'm sorry I'm asking these questions, just trying to get a sense of it. I think my last question is, I'm sorry, this is stupid. If I live in a different neighborhood, Castle, is quality of water different?
So inside city, MSC's infrastructure? No.
Like the pipes are basically, it's the same.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. We actually have to, we do testing throughout the whole city. There's lead and copper testing, there's testing that we have.
Thank you so much. I know you weren't prepared for this.
If it was electric, it'd be a little more involved, because I did live here.
Got it.
I just have one question. It says, do construction, how long is that will be?
So we expect about 6 months, so we might hit our first semi-annual payment, interest payment, so.
No. All right, thank you, Mr. Blomquist. Since you just heard from him, we might as well take it, push it down. Move on and hear from the chief, who I think very important. So resolution 2024-12, a resolution to approve the FSC loan from Delaware Drinking Water Revolving Fund to the Full Lane Treatment Facility, TPAS Treatment Systems Improvements. Whereas pursuant to the Municipal Services Commission MFC Charter Section, the Commission, upon unanimous approval of the Commissioners and following approval by resolution of the Council of the City of Newcastle, is authorized and empowered to borrow sums of money in accordance with the additional provisions provided therein, subsections 1 through 10. Whereas the MSC has applied and been approved for a loan in the amount of $1,135,920 for the School Lane Treatment Facility PFAS treatment system improvement. And whereas this loan has been approved by the Delaware Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Division of Public Health with 100% debt forgiveness. And whereas the Commissioners voted unanimously to approve and proceed with such loan at their February 2024 meeting. And whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle has determined that the loan complies with the provisions of Section 3G of the MSC Charter and has no other objections to the MSC proceeding with such a loan, now therefore be it resolved that the MSC has approval from the Council of the City of Newcastle to proceed with completing the loan process for Stool Lane Treatment Facility, PFAS Treatment Systems Improvement. So do I hear a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2024-12.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Blomquist.
Thank you.
Okay, now go back a bit, Chief McCabe, I'm sorry.
Perhaps you've heard a few things on, and that's scary, I'm sorry. No, it worked out actually, because I'm glad you took you on, I am gonna. A couple of things. First, I know we hopefully all got our annual report emailed to you, last week or so. It's also been posted on our website, along with, last month's report. So, you'll notice in the back of this, there's a transparency report. We took that same report, separated it, and, added it to our transparency tab in the, on our website. So, I don't have a whole lot to say other than I have questions. I've answered any questions we have, and we can jump out of here, look at that report. Not, what I'll say in summary is, we've shared our transparency report now for several years, and the content of that basically is, the two real hot items are our course report and then internal affairs reports. Those are numbers that are consistent with a lot of other agencies in the state. And it factors into a discussion I'm going to have in a second about some state legislation that's coming our way, where the data is not accurately represented in public. And when we public face this, the idea behind it is to show that all the incidents that we have, all the calls for service, less than 0.5% of all of those calls for service lead to some type of enforcement. And it's a report mandated by a policy that we adopted that requires that we document certain types of force. Of those force reports, half of those really aren't even force. It's a display or the deployment of a taser or a weapon to gain compliance. So those are numbers that are not talked about. So it's important that we continue to share this information and folks realize that. The other part of this, from the criminal affairs aspect is, the numbers are low, which is nice to see. But you'll notice there's a trend in the last few years that most of the issues they come from, internal police, right? So one of the biggest kicks right now against us, typically from ODS, is that we don't know how to police ourselves. But the data doesn't support that argument. And it's reports like this that we need to make sure folks see. We do police ourselves. We have more incidents of discipline from disciplining ourselves than we ever have from citizens' complaints. So those are two important pieces of information that we publicize regularly, and it helps to share it. So I just wanted to point that out. I do have a few highlights a little bit summarize from last month, but if you follow from Facebook, you saw that we had somewhat of a busy month. Late February 20th, around 8 o'clock in the morning in Dobbsville, our officers were stationed there, working traffic, which is going to be this year in a second. Going to be came across an unresponsive male behind the wheel. Turned out he was found to have been under the influence of drugs. That was his fifth offense DUI charge. Subsequent. We've also stopped the car earlier that week for speeding. Again, I'm going to talk about this again. On Wilmington Road, we located he was a person prohibited. We found a 40 caliber Glock pistol, 2 magazines, 29 rounds. We found that the firearm had been manipulated for rapid fire functions. We know that this individual had just left his probation office. We also stopped the car in the Shawtown area for suspicious vehicle, suspicious activity. One of the common complaints we get is that cars stop in the road, they park, they get out to do their business. It's been suspected sometimes that this is drug dealing. Our officers noticed this, I made contact with the owner of the car, and it turns out he was in possession of 1.5 ounces of non-medical grade marijuana. He had a medical marijuana card, but he was in possession of another form of marijuana that had been removed from its original packaging, repackaged for sale, which will lead into my discussion about 543. He was charged with the possession of the marijuana. The state law that was recently passed allows personal possession up to 1 ounce, you get 1.5 ounces. Medical card owners are, I believe, they have allowed 6 ounces, but it was our determination that it was not that marijuana. We don't charge something. The other thing that I think is to talk about is that individual has a criminal record that's pretty extensive, which puts a lot of violence. So that, those are kind of, I'm laying the foundation for when we get into. And Glenn, you went first because you laid the ground, right? So I know last month, and I walked in late, so I didn't catch a lot of the discussion from the public meeting, but I could sense that there was a lot of discussion about personal use. And to your point, this has been passed. This law has been passed by the state. The personal use is certain, but what they've not done is create any guidelines or regulatory language that will help anybody manage, and that is a huge problem. So I get questions all the time. I don't have answers because there are no rules. There is no active body to do it. Dave's been assigned it, the Alcohol and Tobacco Enforcement. They have I guess they're calling him Czar. And he's got a great reputation. He's got a great resume, but he's alone right now. He is creating a unit to deal with this. That unit is being developed or being created by hiring us. So agencies that are already having staffing issues are now going to lose more officers because they're being lured away to a better world, more money. I think the advertisement basically says, no more midnight shifts, no more car crashes, no more domestics. Come work for me, make $80,000 and help me manage this program. That has no regulatory guideline. So we've lost one officer in this program. The rest I think we'll be okay with, but other agencies are going to lose people as well, while we can't replace them. So that in itself is an issue. I have here, and I won't get into details because I think that might violate the ground rules that are set. But this really does highlight 2 states that tried this legalization process, Colorado and Washington. And the effects are not good. The experiment is not working, and crime exists. There are things that this law was meant to target, to eliminate. They have done none of it. Crime has increased. You're talking about a cash business, right? It's still a federal violation. So banks will not allow you to deposit money that you're making, selling an illegal substance from a federal perspective. So this is a cash business. Cash businesses typically draw our high targets. The other aspect of this is, the idea behind this is to maybe give licenses to those that were arrested and charged for selling marijuana back in the day. And there's this notion that there was this, a lot of people being arrested for marijuana selling only, or marijuana possession of marijuana only, and then put in jail. And that just isn't, it's just not accurate. That you may track it back to if you were to look at somebody's rap sheet where it may say marijuana possession, and there may be a sentence behind it, but there are so many other mitigating factors that led to that. There's a level of violence that exists in this world. There are people that get shot. There are home invasions that happen. There are robberies and burglaries that happen because of this business. So, obviously, we have to follow the state guidelines. The fact that they gave you that carve out is I think something that you really should consider. So I support this ordinance totally, and there's a handful of reasons why. First, there is no regulatory language, so I don't know that it's smart to create platform where you can get a license if there's no language and how to manage that yet. In my perspective on this would be that it may be easier to revisit an ordinance if for some reason 6 months down the road you think that this would be a good idea. But it may not be that easy to revisit somebody that's already been given a license. So, and if this is absolutely one of these plans, one of these experiments that I wouldn't want to take the lead on. If there's a jurisdiction that mirrors our population, our demographics, and they do well, 6 months, a year from now, then you review it. I don't think you're going to see that. Crime follows this bill. Homelessness follows this bill. You know, I find it kind of disturbing that we literally don't have the wheels off the ground from one of the most robust substance abuse disorder programs, mental health disorder programs in the state. On the one hand, with our core program, and then we're going to urban facilities that sell intoxicants in an area that we're telling you is underserviced and has a serious addiction problem. All of this, and what this survey or what this research is, it's the Smart Approaches to Marijuana. It was reviewed by researchers from Colorado, University of Colorado, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Children's Hospital, and University of Kansas. What they all recognized is that crime followed this. We did not eliminate the black market. The black market got stronger. In some cases, the cartels from Mexico made it to the states. But it also created a gray market. So you may have a license to sell marijuana legally, that will get taxed or whatever, but you're not going to. You're going to sell half of it legally, the other half of it in the gray area, in the gray market. And that's what other jurisdictions with this type of legislation have experienced. So the opt-out option is there, and I strongly recommend that we consider that. I have a few more state legislative items I want to get into, but I didn't know if anybody had any questions about it.
How many incidents a year would you, it doesn't have to be an exact number, we're just looking back and stuff like that. Do you see or have seen in the past caused by marijuana use or illegal use of marijuana at this point, I guess? Like
Incidents, any incidents?
if you can break it down, that would be great, but in any incidents relating that are caused by illegal use of marijuana, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so I mean, I know we've had home invasions that were related to trying to get money or drugs. We've had shootings related to the same thing. We have stopped folks that are dangerous, like I just described, incredibly dangerous people that are coming into our city to sell. They're armed and they're dangerous and they're ready to protect themselves. Right? So we've already had some accidental overdose incidents with children. This isn't the Allman Brothers marijuana, right? This is bite the head off the gummy bear. Adults are calling 911 saying I'm having a stroke. So imagine, and I'm not making that up. So imagine a child, and it's happening. We already have protocols on the state level on how to address children that are eating marijuana. Not just to treat them, obviously, but to investigate whether or not was it an accident? Did we just accidentally drop THC on the floor and our child ate it? Or were we neglectful, right? Or whatever. So those, we've seen a few of those incidents already.
But to be a devil's advocate, let's say there is a store in Newcastle, just hypothetically, right? Wouldn't that eliminate the problem you were just talking about, or at least reduce it of, people trying to come in and sell illegal?
What we're telling you from the studies that are done in Colorado that property values near these stores are dropping. That crime is following people into these stores. That store is going to have the mother load of cash in. People are going to walk out of that store with marijuana, they're going to smoke it. Your neighbors are going to smell it. They're going to be upset with it. They don't want to smell it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see what this is going to bring into the city. So, no, I don't believe, based on these studies too, I don't believe that it's going to fix that. It's just going to add to it. That's the gray market there.
Thank you.
So again, I support this motion. A couple of state bills I'd like to bring to the council's attention. I understand there may be an invite sent out to join the League of Local Government at the end of the month.
Chamber of Commerce.
Or,
Yeah, you mean the meeting on the 28th, I think?
yes, well, I think that the concept is to talk about House Bill 206. And it's a good lead into what we're getting into. House Bill 206 is one of the most informative pieces of legislation that I've ever seen. It does a lot of things, but one of the most significant parts of it is that it requires all police agencies in the states to become accredited. That's a huge deal. It's the only state in the country that requires that. And the police chiefs, the FOP, the general, and the Delaware State Police all support it. As a matter of fact, we had a big role in draft. Accreditation is important for a handful of reasons, but it's a regulatory, it's created a body that is now regulatory, that gives us standards we have to follow. And by doing that, it should eliminate or prevent the need for a lot of legislation that really it shouldn't be there. If you have an idea, it doesn't need to turn into a bill. If anybody's watched bills are drawn, drafted, and then turned into legislation, it's not great. So the idea behind this is if you have some concerns about how we're doing our job, this might be the best place to address the standards that we have to follow and standards that we have to meet, show compliance for, and then pass while we're expected. So I say that to say that there are ample bills out there that could be addressed in other forms other than legislation when the root or the driving forces behind these bills are based on inaccurate information. First is there's an asset forfeiture bill that's out there right now that would eliminate the SLEEP fund. SLEEP is the state law enforcement assistance fund. To give you an example of SLEEP, it is money that is built up from seizures from drug arrests. Now, the reasoning behind this driving force, I don't completely understand. I think it's another example of we're creating problems, or of course, solutions for problems that don't exist here. That's not to say that somewhere there hasn't been some abuse in the asset forfeiture world, but the system, the way it's set up in Delaware, does not allow for that. The Attorney General's office screens all of our seizures. If they don't like what we did, they're not going to seize it. And if they decide to seize it, then the person who's had their money seized can have a hearing and a judge can listen. So the SLEEP fund basically, it's a compilation of all seizures. Excuse me, it could be we recently seized a vehicle. If we sell that, the proceeds need to go to the SLEEP fund. Give you examples of things we use this money for. We still have in-car cameras as part of our camera system. We buy more cameras now, but we have in-car cameras that were purchased back in 2012 with $40,000 SLEEP. It was a $40,000 SLEEP. And it's still up and operating. Now we've transitioned to, this is now a budgetary item for us, but it helped jumpstart that program. We have, the state police has hired two firearms examiners that are at our disposal. We've used them. I used them personally as a detective in a homicide. With the help of our friends in Wilmington, the FBI, we had our suspects in our homicide stopped 4 hours after the shooting, recovered a firearm on a holiday. The examiner came out, took the firearm, went to the autopsy with me, took the round, and by the end of the day, we knew that gun fired. That was the gun, that was our murder list. That's what these folks do. That money, that tradition is funded with SLEEP fund. We had a shooting, a woman drove to the hospital with a gunshot wound and said that she felt that she thinks that she was unfairly cuffed when she was shot. This same examiner came out again on a holiday and helped us recreate a scene where we determined it was just not possible for that to happen. So that the shooting was somewhere else. So, and this is just us. There's 50 other police agencies that use this examiner, and the state police, obviously. So again, that's one small example of what this money does. Every portable radio that our officers have has been upgraded. $5,000 radios have been purchased with SLEEP. Not touched our general funds for that at all. You've seen probably our use of the Delaware State Police dive team and the Marine unit, that they dove for us 3 times in a week. We covered a weapon that was used, in the shooting, and did 2 other things. The Marine unit came out and helped us recreate a jumper. We recovered a deceased body, and there was concern that he may have been a murder victim. The Marine unit came out and worked with us for days, and we were able to locate a bridge where this gentleman had jumped and found video to support that. And that took a homicide off of our books, potential homicide. So, again, this is a very small portion of what this fund is used. There's legislation right now that would take this money, put it into the general fund. And I promise you if that happens, we'll never see it. And that is going to hurt every individual agency. It also does a few things that, it raises the level of where you can seize money up to $1,000. It's not, reasonable. And then if you require the agency or the jurisdiction to pay the attorney fees for the person whose money you seized. And really, in a nutshell, we're not supporting this notion of removing civil consequences to drug use, which basically is what this is. So again, this is things that we think all of our local officials should know about, so that when they have conversations at the state level, you're looking well versed. There's another bill out there that requires a prohibition on quotas. Now, we support the notion of not having quotas. This agency does not have a quota system. We don't require that you break a certain amount of tickets or make a certain amount of arrests. I'm not saying I didn't come from a generation that did, but we recognize the fault that we've done throughout all the process. So it is not likely that there are agencies that have quotas. If there are, this could be very easily addressed in the accreditation standard. We already have a traffic standard that requires certain elements. An added clause that prohibits quotas would be an easy fix. But what's been drafted is legislation that's so restrictive that we can't even use it to gauge any kind of personal work ethic, right? So you can conceivably come into work and do absolutely nothing, and for 12 hours do nothing, and there's nothing you can do to say, look, we have a problem on 3rd Street. Where's my friend on 3rd Street? We have a problem on 3rd Street. This law would restrict agencies from being able to say, I got a call from the city council that said we have a speed problem on West 7th Street in Dallasville. Could you please address it? This law would prohibit me from directing an officer to go out there and write tickets for speed. It also would remove our ability to get funding from highway safety. And there are at least at any given month, 2 or 3 projects where I have overtime cars out targeting specific traffic violations. And the insanity on this timing is that we're just now starting to come down, but we've had some of the worst, from a state perspective. The fatal numbers from 2021, 22, we're back. 2020 has come down a little bit, but again, that's what traffic enforcement is designed to do. And this would absolutely limit that. So, yes.
Oh, no, so follow-up question on that. What are the proponents of the bill? Because I know you've been in LECO for all these bills are saying, like, what is the main argument why to change it to?
So asset forfeiture is
It's not, I'm sorry, the latter. I'm curious about the latter because it's like, are you not being able to discuss anything? This doesn't seem.
we don't know that, well, they don't agree that's what this language means, but I can tell you that there's a line in here that says that it prohibits me from requesting enforcement actions to direct a law enforcement officer to act for the purpose of increasing the number of arrests, investigative stops, warning summonses, or citations issued by the law enforcement. So that, I mean, the bottom line is if I do that and there's somebody that doesn't want to do that, they're going to say you just broke it. So, so, but I don't know the driving force behind it. We believe we believe we know, and it's disturbing driving force. But again, this is because for whatever reason, what we're doing is not making it down. It's people, they're not hearing what agencies across the state are doing. we absolutely listen to our Mr. Millers and say, we have a problem here. We address those things, that would eliminate that, so. But I don't really have an answer for that, unfortunately. The last one I'm gonna address, and I'm sorry to take up some time, but this was an incredible week. This all happened at once. We talked about 206, House Bill 205 reformed the oath. That was the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. We changed it to the Police Accountability, Due Process Accountability and Transparency Act. We, the FOP, the DSTA, all of us conceded a few items to allow for more transparency. It gives me the ability to talk to a complaining citizen a little bit more freely than I used to be able to about certain complaints, why we came to the conclusion we came to. We were restricted by the local law for this. We took some loopholes out of this law, and we created a list of what we would public face if an officer were charged and that complaint sustained. We would public face it. We have no problem with that. This law wants us to public face all complaints, whether they were sustained or not. So if I send an officer into an area that's got a serious drug problem, and he begins to do his job or her job in that area, all you have to do is walk into my building, explain that person was rude, they drove too fast, they did whatever they did, open an internal affairs investigation, and that would be something that could be used against the officer in court, or at the very least, made public. So our argument to this is the defense, this is the Office of Defense Service trying to create a platform for the first 3 minutes of our cross-examination, because they want to get the upper hand on us. They're convinced, as I said earlier, that we don't police ourselves, that we don't hold ourselves accountable. We have said from the beginning that we know that we're not perfect. There were issues that we had to address, all of us, some more than others. And we did it collectively. This bill was designed to, and it hasn't even really hit the ground yet, it was designed to give another level of transparency. We're not even letting the ink dry and we're already readdressing. So this is going to have, this is what chased the first round of senior people out of this job. When they hear this, that they're looking to take away qualified immunity, that they're gonna, somebody falsely accuses me of a sexual assault, but we're gonna public face that, my daughter's gonna see it. I was nowhere near. You know, I mean, I personally was on the stand when I was asked if I took a defendant behind a warehouse to beat the confession out of him, despite the fact that there's video surveillance of him in somebody else's police car. That would be something that would be public facing because the allegation was made. So that's my reputation, that's my family's reputation. We take any more hits like this and we are not going to have fully functioning police department. So what we're asking is that when you go to these local government meetings, ask questions about these bills, talk to the sponsors, and you know, what is your driving force behind this? And do we have that problem here? So I appreciate, I'm sorry to get on the soapbox, but this has been one of those big ones.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, Goodwill Fire Department. You guys, my list out.
For the date, in front of you, I do want to mention that last month in the EMS portion of the packet, on page 7, where it's incident by response disposition, there was a glitch at the very top where it said EMS transports. It was gone wrong in January. That was because of the system getting updated, so it wasn't able to recognize the current system. So, has been addressed. So these numbers are. There's so all the numbers coincide with the, public, position. The other thing is, for everybody enjoying Christmas weather that we had today, so with that being said, go by, I mean, if you see us out training, feel free to stop us, ask questions, interact with the, our members, our staff. So they're not, don't hesitate because they're out and about. And being questioned. We definitely. Last month. People asking, we spoke about a large water supply drill that we will be having in the city. Along with our mutual aid partner, that will be the second way, April 20th, 2024. Our mutual aid partner will not consolidate our mother partner. Mutual aid partner are in Carroll City Police, MC, and any other organization that we end up working with. For this event, we will be working with the Carroll City PD, as well as MSC. This drill comes from the fire company wanting to ensure that if there is a large scale incident, where there is any type of catastrophic failure or anything like that to the water system, we are still able to do our job successfully and safely. So with this event, it's going to take place around 8 o'clock in the morning and go through about 4 o'clock. Areas that it will affect will be down at the Rock, Grand, lower end of Harmony Street in the area of the Strand, and East Second Street from Chestnut to Bull Hill, as well as the 3rd Street Bridge and Chestnut Street, down Chestnut Street. There will be 2 draft sites, and what we call draft sites is we will have the fire engine position where it will suck water from the Delaware River, and then it will push water through hose to a simulated fire incident. That fire incident will be down in Galehead. So we will be flowing water down in that area. Other draft site will be at the 3rd Street Bridge, where we will do the same thing, suck water from right there and send that up Chestnut Street, down 2nd to that area. This drill is to ensure that we are able to sustain a certain amount of water for a certain amount of time. There will be, during this incident, there will be restrictions, some slight inconvenience, I apologize for it. So, there will be a letter or a notice of training event that will go out, in MSC's mail. So every resident will receive that letter. It is detailed on what will be happening that day. We understand the inconvenience from certain areas. We will have vehicles, so that way we can ensure that we can assist the citizens in any way possible, with taking from one point to another, whether they're out and they want to come back into their home. We will have a vehicle there to shuttle them from one point to the other. So with that said, we welcome the community to come out as well. This is not just for the fire companies involved in this incident, but this is also for the community to come out and see what happens. This is not saying that there is an issue with MSC's water system at all, there isn't. But unfortunately, there are catastrophic incidents that do happen out of their control. And we want to make sure that we are doing everything possible to prepare to handle this. That's it.
Next up is public comments. Then usual thing, name and address, sign in, and you have to name.
Victor Bryson, 604 Clark Street, Dobbins. I'm here tonight, I'm going to thank Joe Day and all his friends that joined in and made 7th Street look really the way it should always look. My campaign 2 years ago, I asked that part of my campaign would be to hire more city workers to where this taken within the getting where it's in here, it would be picked up on the daily basis. Secondly, I'm really concerned about our municipal bills. I believe in my heart that municipal service is out of control. The rates they're giving us, they can say it's the lowest rates in the world. My biggest problem is when you've got all the workers for the municipal services making double the amount of money our city workers are that don't work half as hard as our city workers work. I got a problem with that. It's not right. Art Bell has kept these city workers in the gutter for the last decade, and it's not right. These guys walk behind your trucks in the winter, in the snow, in the rain, they smell your garbage. They're always polite. They're always bothered. What's wrong with this city? I'm asking that no man on that city drive make less than $22 an hour. And I'm hoping that you find it in your heart to make it, because I was told by town people that there's more so money in this town than there's ever been. And thirdly, I'd like to ask the lawyer a personal question, if I could, please. Are you affiliated with Danny Losco's law firm in any way?
No.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bill Gross, 1301 Street. Chief, I hope that you're able to get some cameras for the city out of that fund. Because if you would, I wouldn't have had 3 police cars and all your police officers run up on me and wrongfully arrest me. As it turns out, the court, the judge, and the prosecutors came up with the right answer. They said, we're gonna suspend the charges pending nothing happening in the future because there was no proof that I stole any secrets. And the Weekly never, other than printing 2 pictures of my mugshot, never printed a retraction, never printed anything saying that I was not found guilty of any charges. As far as the ordinance 543, you are correct, Council President Souter. You are not obligated by any state law to do anything, but I urge this council to include a derivative of it included in that motion. Because there's no reason, we have the Calmar Nickel, we have other family events, it's a perceived view. And like the chief said, and this time again, he was right. Those type of things, those type of products, those type of issues bring crime behind it. Is that what we want our perceived city to be like? I think so. And you, as a council, have the right to include it. You have the right to ban. You have the right to do whatever you need to do in the city, because the state does not dictate other than the type of product, whether it's legal or not legal. You as a council member right to ban that, and I urge you to do it. As far as Bill 544, all for it, there needs to be 2 spaces per unit. Otherwise, you're gonna have cars parked all over South Street and 7th Street. It. Thank you.
Just to say that my understanding from my conversation with Attorney Erica Stratton is that we do not, right? Regulate the, well, and what we just talked to, but
That's it.
all right, we're not gonna do that either. Anyone else? Ms. Miller?
Rod Miller, 8th Street. I just want to follow up quickly with the quality of life issues that I brought up last month, and now I asked a couple, I don't want to keep us got stuff to death again, but at any rate, I want to bring up some things that I brought up some years ago, and some other things that previous councils had discussed on their meeting 5 or more years ago, regarding parking, which is, one of my big issues. I see it as a big part of life issue. Parking is very difficult, especially on my street when the renters outnumber property owners. But anyway, I've been in touch with the police recently about some of these parking issues. Complicating and delaying this a little bit is the fact that I guess we still don't have a code officer hired yet.
No, it's being announced and.
Okay, fine.
It's not.
Okay. At any rate, let me just revisit some things that that brought up before. Some years back, they were talking about some kind of a kiosk downtown, maybe. Now, this might have been right around the time with the big controversial parking lot. It should not have been controversial. It went through on West Third, but they were talking about the kiosk, people from out of town, paying to park and whatnot. And I don't know whatever happened to that. That just I didn't really have an opinion one way or another, but that just kind of disappeared. Then there was a thing going on about parking permits, and that really caught my attention because I thought maybe something like that would solve difficulties, like I have, like I face on my street. In other words, if you have a multiple unit rental, and maybe you've only got a spot out front for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 vehicles, and maybe you've got 6 or 8 vehicles associated with your property, why should I have to fight for a spot in front of my property with all of your renters? Why should you not just get permits for what you have in front of your property, and then anybody else just has to park up the block? So I don't know whatever happened to that, but that seemed like a somewhat serious discussion for a while, and then that just kind of disappeared. So also I'd like to see the city get a little bit more involved with quality of life issues in terms of the kind of discussions you have where with getting more citizen involvement, more community involvement. There's that little code officer blurb that you put in the electric bill every month, talks about things that are not permissible, which I see, those things being violated all the time. And, that's why I'm very interested in talking with our new code officer, when they come on board. But I would like to see maybe somebody on city council champion that, maybe try to get some little community involvement, with the citizens, in terms of people understanding what the quality of life issues, that they have a problem with, rather than just have us just try to call the police all the time. Maybe city council could be some kind of an intermediary for that type of thing.
Anyone else?
Dave Casey, East Third Street. I work for the Weekly and I run the CBD shop in town, which also sells healthy snacks and drinks and bath and body things. And I think we're gonna do some scooter rentals this spring and summer, so people can ride from here to Wilmington or here up to the farmer's market. But be sure to stop by and, yeah, check it out. I think we did a good job setting it up. I just wanted to say, you know, I'm glad that you looked into, CBD and found out that it was being regulated as a grain, as food that is healthy for you. You should incorporate it in your diet, young or old. But to the marijuana ordinance, that won't affect me, and I do appreciate that. But I would say that being anti-commerce is not very in the spirit of the revolutionary town that we live in. We covered already that hemp was used, I'm sure, in this town for hundreds of years, probably on the Kalmar nickel, make rope and sails and whatever else they might be needed. And I'm sure the town fathers were growing it, smoking it, and selling it tax-free. And I am sympathetic to the chief's story, and we talked a little bit last month about his career and kind of energy he's had to spend on this. And so in that regard, I feel for you that you have to see this, all that hard work, all that energy, all that money spent that way, only to see it come to a retail conclusion. What a tragic waste of money and resources, when that could have been spent on violent crime or the opiate epidemic. I mean, there are needle caps. We have real problems in this. Cannabis is not 30% of all traffic accidents and deaths. That is liquor. Liquor leads to domestic violence, not cannabis. Liquor is involved in, I believe, 60 to 70% of all violent crimes. 60% of murderers were drunk at the time of their crime. This is not the characteristics of the average pothead. I can tell you, I lament. So I would just advise, again, the plight, the problems that you were mentioning were problems that stem from the black market. And I feel for you on that. That is one of the products of prohibition. We can study history to learn more about that. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Am I allowed a second turn if I may talk for a minute? There was one thing I didn't have time to bring up.
I don't think so. We have a lot of more things to cover tonight, Mr. Miller. You have to save it for next month. Okay? I do have one more. We got an email this afternoon from Dorsey Fisk of East Third Street. It's not very long, so well, I have to read it. But anyway, so she says, please read this statement at council meeting this evening, as I want this information to be on the record. As you know, the Trust of Newcastle Common is an exceedingly valuable asset to everyone who lives in Newcastle. Hundreds of acres, millions of dollars, our benefit. Unfortunately, the local weekly paper, whose office is in trust property managed by the trustees, has printed disinformation and lies about me, the trustees, and the Department of Justice's investigation of them. The misinformation and innuendo printed by the weekly, whose editor refuses to print anything I write or say, is a grave disservice to the beneficiaries of the trust. I contacted the Department of Justice while I was serving as a trustee because the majority of the board refused to observe the Freedom of Information Act, which the Attorney General told them they are required to do. So far, the Fraud and Consumer Protection Division of the Department of Justice has instituted several improvements to the trustees' behavior. However, the trustees have continued to close down information about their workings, limiting access to 4 meetings a year, shortening those we are permitted to attend, and now refusing public comment apps. I have pamphlets which were sent out annually to everyone by the trustees 18 years ago, that provided every resident in town with a great deal of information about the workings of the trust, information they will no longer let us see. It is wrong that the trustees will not observe FOIA, so anyone who is interested can know how trust assets are handled. Everyone in this town, every beneficiary has the right to that information. And she signs it, Ann Dorsey Fisk, trustee 2006, 2018. Okay. So now we have the second reading, discussion and possible vote on ordinance 543 today, which is very.
So do I need to read the whole ordinance again?
No, the second.
I did want to say a couple things. I appreciate the police chief, talking about it. And I appreciate you looking in and I also wanted to clear up a couple items. So,
Hey, should you leave, Councilman, just before you do that, can you just read it, actually read?
absolutely, yep. So ordinance number 543 is an ordinance to amend chapter 230 zoning as it pertains to marijuana related businesses. So when the legislation passed the state legislature gave us the ability to opt out. If they did not give that ability to small municipalities or to municipalities in general, the bill was not going to pass. So it gave us the ability as a municipality to opt out. It did not give the county the ability to opt out. So far we've seen Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach, Bethany Beach, and the town of Middletown have all opted out. And they've all opted out for the same reason, because there's no benefits for the towns or the municipalities for this. You take all the risk and you get none of the benefit. The state takes all the tax money. We don't have the ability to tax it, no matter what form it is. We're not getting any tax money. And again, we're taking the risk. I'll echo the chief's comment, more pressure on the police. We really don't have set regulations yet. They're actually still building the department. They've actually kicked the licensing back for next year. It was supposed to be this year, now it's next year. So there's a lot of uncertainty going on here. But I know we all talk about personal experiences, and I'll share my personal experience in the city of Newcastle. I love living here. This was the best thing that's ever happened to me and my family. But what I'll tell you was I walk down the end of my street and there's 15 cars parked down there, and I walk through pot smoke. I smell it, I can breathe it, me and my wife walk down the path. There's people just smoking dope on the path. Just smoking joints like it's legal. I am not naive to think the police are going to be able to, respond every time and give somebody a ticket. But I also don't think having retail marijuana outlet is going to make that any better for us or for our kids. I heard a councilman earlier talk about people smoking near the playground. I mean, I just don't think it sets a stage for the city of Newcastle. So that's why I'm moving forward with this ordinance. And again, we are not outlawing it. It's not that much of an inconvenience for somebody to drive out of the city and to pick it up when they pick up their groceries or whatever they go out of the city for. So again, I'm going to make a motion that we pass ordinance 543 tonight.
Can we comment too?
That's
Can we have
just
discussion?
discussion.
Yeah. I'm really kind of conflicted, to be honest with everybody. I don't like substance use of any kind. I never smoked. I started drinking in my late 20s, mid 20s. I don't even know, right? I never smoked cigarettes and definitely never smoked drugs. So I'm just like a weird person to look at it. So I just wanted to start off with that, right? So even just seeing the smoke shop that was open on the corner, where kids pass by all the time, and having one, across Walgreens and Fair Cutoff, it's just like so many opportunities for people to get cigarettes, so many opportunities for people to get alcohol. It's almost, and Max, correct me if I'm, it's almost, I don't even know if we have the authority to say, oh yeah, but this one we don't like. So we're gonna ban it, because I know it's new when it comes to being legalized. state. What? Cigarettes, but I don't want to see increased amount of crime, increased amount of people smoking pot on the street any more than I want to see at a trunk or a person smoking a cigarette at a playground. But because this was elected at the state level already, I'm just gonna have to, I don't know, it's just hard to kind of separate it, and I'm trying to look through the bill right now. If you can point me, Suzanne, or Max, where does it allow us to do this? Because I'm only reading that municipalities of 50,000 or more people can do that. Later on, am I wrong?
We actually did a presentation, so I guarantee you it's in there. You absolutely can ban it. Just as it said, you know, it's really have the right to ban.
Yeah,
It's, can't cite you chapter and verse because I did not frame my presentation.
is it on the locality, municipality, or something? Do you know what the? I'll be looking at this whole thing.
It's in there.
Right, but anyways, those are kind of my arguments for and against, I guess, because I look at it from kind of equity perspective of how, you know, like, if we're gonna allow a liquor store to open or a cigarette store to open, how are we not gonna allow marijuana store to open in town? So I guess that's kind of discussion I would like to have perhaps, because I don't see the difference of a drunk driver or a high driver. To me, unfortunately, it's a DUI. So, or a crime, where both of those, people is the same crime to me. I'm trying to understand how is this any different from that, so.
If I could, I'm looking at it a little bit different. It's cash based. Since it's 100% cash based, and since the federal government doesn't allow it, it's not allowed to get into the banking system. That it's situations where more crime happen. More people walking the path, out. My biggest concern is definitely crime scenarios, due to the fact that 100% are captured. I'm thinking maybe in the future, we can reconsider this once, the federal government recognizes it. But, for right now, I want to think about crime scenarios and more of the cap situation that's causing the situations versus what it is.
More concerned 100%, I'm just wondering, wouldn't the facility have a security, right? Like, if that was something that you're coming in as the best practice already, right? Like, wouldn't that be? I don't know, just, do you know, if they're in 2 states that have it already, you know, is there security present?
There are some that actually hired retired officers that are armed. I mean, so that's a book you want to consider.
But most of the time, that's on the inside. You have to worry about the outside. They're not taking care of the outside. That's where our police force would have to kick in.
No, I understand, but you know, if you transfer the cash to the secure site, you know, like, I mean, still, anyways, I'm not, it's a valid concern. I don't know, I don't have an answer for it, to be honest.
Dr. Chairman? Sure. Council President. Fellow residents and friends, this is a serious topic. I deliberated extensively on this matter. Research included speaking with current and former residents, business owners, parents, educators, healthcare professionals, people from the law enforcement community, and people who have battled addiction. Additionally, I've read what was crafted out of it. I think it's fair that in some instances, possession of marijuana has been decriminalized by the state. I do. I think it's understandable that in some instances, the capital raised under the dominion and control of the state will go toward restorative justice, workforce development, programs, et cetera, that are disproportionately affected in certain areas. That's where they say they will steer some of these monies. Sounds good. As one ages or matures, you understand that All events in track aren't sprints. Nor should you be enticed to run at someone else's pace. The story tale of the tortoise and the hare continues to be germane. Sometimes the tortoise who was wise, strategic, and pragmatic wins the goal. Sometimes you start out fast and then you end up wheezing in the back. I do see serious glaring problems. Federal law for prohibition, the newness of this industry that will certainly have growing pains, lessons learned, and opportunities for improvement. Uncertainty around local law enforcement and local government's ability to intercede in respect to issues should they arise. The proliferation of artificial marijuana substances. Business enterprises that are 100% cash or promote whitewashing of electronic payments through apps, cashback, digital coins, etc. The recognition of shortages of qualified law enforcement professionals throughout the state at all levels. Additionally, in respect to this current bill here, and I just want to take some time to let people know what's in here. Page 9 of 45. It does say any municipality with a population of 50,000 or more may limit the sales under this subsection within boundaries of the municipality. It also says that a holder of a license for a retail marijuana store may have sales that take place beginning at 8 a.m. on Fridays through Saturday and 10 a.m. on Sundays. Page 12 of 45. The commissioner and 3 members of the appeals commission, consisting of 1 member from each county, shall be appointed by the governor and confirmed by a majority of the members of the elected Senate and shall serve at the pleasure of the governor. Again, no local oversight or control. Page 21. We're talking about finances. For some people, that's what matters. The facts are that a retail marijuana store license will pay the commissioner $10,000 biannually. Again, it goes to the state. Page 25 of 45. Again, it talks about the same thing in regards to finances. Page 33 of 45, the commissioner may refuse to grant a license to sell marijuana products, or marijuana accessories to any new establishment to be located in the vicinity of a church, school, college, or substance abuse treatment facility. Again, the commissioner may do it. They don't have to, they may. The term vicinity is not defined. I don't know what that means. Page 41 of 45. The fees, charges, and taxes imposed by the state shall be in lieu of all county and municipal license fees and taxes upon the business of selling, growing, and manufacturing marijuana as such. Our city cannot tax it. We will have no financial benefit per se. In respect, there will be a 15% sales tax. It's charged by the state. 7% of that will go through the programs in respect to areas that are disadvantaged, et cetera. Then after that, it will go to the administrative costs and expenses of the commissioner, to the administrative costs and expenses of the Criminal Justice Council. And then it will go as appropriated by the General Assembly. Again, no ability to drive capital for us back here locally.
Yeah, I just wanted for the audience, section 1351 of the Act, local control. A municipality may prohibit the operation of marijuana cultivation facilities, marijuana product manufacturing, marijuana testing facilities, or retail marijuana stores through the enactment of an ordinance or through an initiated or referred measure. So you have the authority to ban it. I also want to say, just a couple other questions I've heard. I don't do policy. I get into policy, just telling you what the law says, right? You could, if you so desired, you could have provisions where you have like a special use exception or something like that. You could put some limitations on the areas. With respect to local control, everything that's been said is 100% accurate. However, if there were a facility that came in and they violated a local law, that is grounds for immediate revocation of their license under the law. So in other words, they violated a local,
And the state would take their
the state
license.
would take their license away. I just wanted to be, I don't do policy, just wanted to make sure we had all of these.
My comments are, I agree with Mr. Soroka that, you know, people get drunk and cause all kinds of problems and traffic accidents and crimes and so forth. But as I understand it, it's fairly simple to do an easy blood test to determine someone's blood alcohol level and whether or not they've crossed the threshold to be charged with DUI. Whereas there is no easy way to tell with marijuana. Is that correct?
There are issues prosecuting these laws. We're trying it, we're giving it a whirl, but there are issues because the current DUI statute says that there has to be an illegal substance. If it's not illegal, we have an issue, right? So, but there are rules around the possession of marijuana while you're driving and stuff like that. So it can be done, but it's not easy. I do want to dispel the notion that the two are separate. Again, this is what the two states that legalized this experienced after 4 years. The number of DUI crashes doubled. Fatalities went up, injuries went up, DUI arrests went up, youth use went up. The arrests of minorities went up. All the things that we said we were going to fix, they increased in some cases twofold. Drinking and smoking marijuana are not the same thing. The federal government has not prohibited drinking, right? They have prohibited the use. The marijuana is still legal. It's still illegal. The last thing I want to say, I heard about revenue. The last thing that this study said was that none of the revenue that was supposed to be used, none of it came. This money is going to get sucked up by the general funds. It's not going to be used to help build neighborhoods that have been treated fairly. It's not going to do the things according to the study that have been projected, and it's certainly not coming to the local level. So.
And my other concern is the cash-based business, because the DUI, we're still gonna have to cope with that once it's legal, because people can drive out of town to the nearest retail licensed store and buy marijuana. Hopefully they'll wait till they get home to consume it. And then they won't be on the road under the influence. But the cash base really concerns me, because you not only have the cash in the store, but you have customers coming up, and anybody watching knows that if they're going to purchase this, they're going to have cash with them because there's no other way. So even if there's a guard inside the store, that's not going to help people outside. And we all know that stores get robbed even though there's a guard there. So I thought about it a lot too, but for those two reasons, that's why I stand to my decision. Are we ready to take a vote?
Council President,
Excuse me,
I'm sorry, you haven't seconded this motion.
Mr. Dave.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 543.
Okay. Okay. Now we need a roll call vote for this. Requires a roll call vote.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I think you need to allow further discussion.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion?
I would just, yeah, I would just like to add that no matter what, council decides today, this is something that the city has to know that we have to deal with. And I just encourage residents to, seek out ability to lobby, to get information and to, get educated on the topic. I'll just stop talking.
Yeah. One of those things, like, at some point, now that my neighborhood is gonna be like, well, this is the other neighborhood, is, they're gonna be passing for our city. Or there are neighbors anyways who are using our own. I think we have several people who can consider that in in today's public comment. So, this, no matter the, is gonna be, something we have to learn how to tackle and, hopefully work with different levels of the, law enforcement and other agencies to learn how to get better at this, similar the way we have with, alcohol or cigarettes.
Any further comment? Ready for a vote? Please, Ms. Hurd.
Council President Suzanne Souter,
Aye.
Councilperson Joe Day, Councilperson Andrew Zelt, Councilperson Norman Zubaka, Councilperson Brian Mataway,
Due to the duration.
the motion carries with a vote of 4 in favor and 1 against.
Second, possible vote on ordinance 524. So,
So, seems like the red line changes may have not been posted and came in, so I'm going to, table 544 until the next meeting. Okay.
Because I just have one, or, to help with decision making. Could we request a data request from current city to tell us how many units and how many cars they have? Offices. I'm not sure if this is something they collect. Anyways, I'm not sure if they issue permits within the parking complex, but there is data like that. It's been more than 2 years currently. Code address. Is it something that you thought are gonna reach out to city office to see?
I don't know if they are required to provide us. I mean, I think the number of units, that's part of their business license, but I don't know if they're required to tell us how many vehicles.
My logic there is this, right? So we're trying to move this from 1.5 to 2. And let's say an apartment complex has 200 units, 400 cars, there's no brainer. We should move it to 2 because that's what we're seeing. That's current reality. But if that is smaller than 1.4, so that would help me at least. We can see those trends that we're talking about, whether they spill over in Newcastle, even though I was looking at census data of 2022, and we don't have that many people working from home, but we actually have a higher rate of people owning a car in Newcastle than county, state, or defense. So like that was something that it was interesting to see, but now I want to see that at a department level, how does that translate there?
It's just like, it's not so much moving it from 1.5 to 2. It's basically, there was a sub area in the ordinance that put it to 1.5 for that area. So anyway, we're going back to the 2, which was originally there in the ordinance. So it's not like we're.
Okay, are we going to take
Yeah,
it tonight, or are we going to?
No, I could try to ask for that to be something that we can.
Okay, and I for you with the data, and maybe for next time. Is that our numbers for people working from home and for numbers of vehicles are higher than lower numbers of people working from home and higher numbers of vehicles. Was that a snapshot in time or is that a trend?
So I only looked at 2022 census, but I didn't have time to look at the trend, but that's a great point to look at whether this.
I just put it- Next,
Yeah, I can try to
we could
get
deeper
10,
review.
20 year.
So I have a motion, table 544 until next month.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. The next is, second reading discussion and possible vote on ordinance 505. Evaluate ordinance requiring the annual report from our boards and committees. You don't have to read the whole thing again, you can, by title, and then we'll have a discussion.
Ordinance number 545, an ordinance to require all city and Newcastle boards and commissions to provide annual reports to the city council on the activity of the preceding year.
Well, you pretty well explained, I think, your rationale in bringing this ordinance forth. Did you have anything else to say right now?
No, Council President.
Okay, any discussion from members of the council?
We have some, oh, go ahead, John.
To support the ordinance, I do think, Ms. Rain brought up a good point. I think we should put a date in it, whether it's February 3rd or, I think February 1st, probably, so I think that's up to you. I mean, up to the body, but I fully support it. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, my sentiment is kind of similar because I was worried about, I was telling Brian earlier, but I want public to know that we should see whether it's easier for street to submit 2 reports at the same time, or is it easier to spread it out? So, you know, the report for the state is different than what we would receive. And perhaps it's more cumbersome to create 2 reports at a similar reporting period. You know, I think it would make sense to work with, her first to determine that date. And then I wanted to see whether council could provide some guidance on at least sections that we would like to see. So it's not just summary of the minutes or what has happened in a year in playground subcommittee, PAC, tree commission, or planning, but rather, or health, you know, but rather has it, you know, do we have some sort of sections that we expect and format that we want to follow? And also parameters around length and stuff, because all of these are residents. I want to be careful about what are we adding to already, you know, but that was some considerations I had, but I absolutely think, you know, it's a great idea and, you know, living documents going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments, and I welcome council's thoughts and perspectives on the data that would go in. Definitely think there would be benefits to certain sections, and recognizing that all commissions and boards may be non-applicable, right? Or maybe very few responses, but things such as issues or concerns, you know, the need or desire for any grant funding, if so, what, something like that. What is attendance like at the meeting? I know Council President himself asked, I believe last year, for some of that data. Having been to many of the meetings, I've been crystallized to me that sometimes just by reading the minutes or by watching the video, you don't get the tenor or feel of what's going on in the room. And the hope is that the council as a body gets that, understands that, and is able to advocate with the boards and commissions.
One other thing, I do think that we could come up with a standard format after it passes, where we can get goals and opportunities for improvement, requests, funding, that whole type of thing.
Points, maybe, you know.
I almost think we ought to not only ask them for the report, but we should ask them to come to council and give the report and open the line of communication. If they need something from us, that's their opportunity to ask for it. That's just an opinion, but I do think it could help us with our communication with the boards.
I think we have the chair of planning here, and maybe she can address some of the issues Mr. Mataway raised, is right?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I think, the idea of presenting them would be great. I'd be happy to work with you on a template. And I honestly, Chris was the one who did the report in June, so I have no clue what it even entailed. But I also, it was just occurred to me that you ought to stagger the dates, because you certainly don't want a meeting with like 5 people showing up to give a report. You won't have time to do anything else. So, that's my head.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, this ordinance is an authorization. It creates the requirement. At a later time, you can come up with a schedule, what you want in it, right? And all that stuff. So this is just to set the requirement, like authorizing legislation, and then there's things to be worked through at a little bit of time as council directs. That's a guideline or something like that.
I guess my concern about this, that it was just another layer of bureaucracy, and I wondered what it was gonna add to the information already available in the minutes of all these working committees. But you're expanding it to include things like what help would they need from council, or what grants, and that makes sense, because that's not in their meetings. So, given that we can structure it subsequently, and I hope in consultation with
Yes.
because we have an all-volunteer boards and commissions, and I think the last thing we want to do is have the burden of another report that's redundant with information that's already available to us elsewhere. So if we're gonna work out something that's helpful to us and to them, then I would be in favor.
I totally want it efficient for the boards and the chairs. And if it's just them coming and presenting to council. Unfortunately, I've heard from some people who've just said, no one has asked.
Can I just add another thing that, one thing that we should also think about as we're thinking about these strategies and kind of templates is city administrator, because when I was, and Joe, were you chair? Board of Health, were you chair? So then question is towards you too, because I don't know if Ms. Rain was here when Mr. Artel was here, but, and I don't know who was city administrator at the time you were here, but anyways, I guess what my impression was that Mr. Artel was given reports from the commissions and boards, because when I was talking to him, hey, like, are people utilizing PD funds? Do they need more? He had a grasp on it when I was talking to him. So I just assumed that they were reporting, I don't know, the frequency. That was the purpose. Can you speak to that, or even?
I would agree with a couple of things you think said. I don't want to make somebody report to do a report, but I have to tell you, in my opinion, I think we have a blind spot with our boards and commissions, because they're acting, and we don't always know what's going on. We don't know what they're requesting, and it isn't like I want to take the place of the city administrator, but they are boards we appoint.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that the communication from the boards and commissions always made it here. And I think we need that communication to open up between us. And I'll say, they are all volunteer boards. We need to show them that what they're doing is important, period. And I think by opening that communication up, that's exactly what we do.
And absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I would just suggest also, whenever we're staggering these meetings, to happen before budget meetings, in case there are any requests out of these meetings, so that we can accommodate the board, and so if we can think that through backwards. So, of course, I'm assuming some of these things could, if fruitful, we could come across some of these ideas and say, okay, you need X, Y, and Z supports in order to do that. Some might not be monetary, some might just be putting into resources that we already have, people who can help, but some may be things that we need to include in the budget. So just want to be cautious of that too.
Another benefit for having this type of schedule or cadence is with the advent of the changing laws and dynamics. A lot of these boards and commissions are now subject to FOIA. So the ability of saying, you know, on an annual basis, has everyone on the board currently right now gone through a 40 training? It will be for us as a city to kind of have some understanding and guardrails around that.
Okay, so these are all things that we would, if we pass this tonight, then we'll work out these details. I know you really take the lead on that, Mr. Mataway, and work with the chairs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so are we ready for a vote or there's further discussion?
Yep, sorry. Do we have a motion and a second?
No, not yet, excuse me. Yes.
I motion, for a vote in respect to ordinance 545.
Are you, okay, are you moving in favor of it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we need a roll call.
Further discussion?
Further discussion now that we have a motion and a second. Okay. Now we're ready for the roll call.
Council President Suzanne Stouter,
Aye.
Councilperson Joseph J.
Aye.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt,
Aye.
Councilperson Nerman Zubaka, Councilperson Brian Mataway. Motion carries with a vote of unanimous.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's the news. The item is a motion, resolution 24. That's a 9, a resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Jackie Metz. Whereas the Newcastle City Code provides that the mayor of Newcastle appoints members to the Board of Health subject to confirmation by City Council for 2-year terms. And whereas Jackie Metz's term on the Board of Health expires April 9th, 2024. And whereas the City Council proposes to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Jackie Metz to the Board of Health for, I'm sorry, there's a typo here, it's a 2-year term. So if you could, can you correct that as an amendment? Mr. Walton, correct, okay. So for a 2-year term ending on April 9th, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby confirms the appointment of the following person to the Board of Health, Jackie Metz, 2-year term ending April the 9th, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve this appointment?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2024-09.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Next item is a resolution to rename our city treasurer, yes. A resolution to appoint the city treasurer pursuant to section, this is resolution 2024-10. To approve the appointment of a city treasurer pursuant to section 4 of the city charter. Whereas section 4 of the Newcastle City Charter requires city council to appoint an officer of the city who has the title of city treasurer. And whereas the city treasurer duties shall be as specified in the city charter and the code, and as otherwise determined from time to time by city council. And whereas the appointed city treasurer shall serve for an indefinite term until resignation, inability to serve, death, or until removal from office by the affirmative vote of 4 members of city council. Therefore be it hereby resolved that the city council confirms the appointment of James Wisman to the office of city treasurer of the city of Newcastle effective March 15th, 2024.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2024-10. Second.
About, head CPN, I'm guessing like that.
Yeah, there should be.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay, I need to say a couple of things now that we're into discussion. The reason that it's effective on Friday, not today, like we usually do, is because tomorrow is one of the days when the city writes checks to pay its bills. And obviously we can't get this changed by tomorrow. So Ms. Carlin was the president treasurer signing checks, and I wanted her to still be official when she signed our checks. But then this will give us time to get the signature cards at the bank changed in time for 2 weeks from tomorrow, the next time, since they have this regular cycle of when they pay them. So no, that's not a typo. It's deliberately a few days in the future to allow time for the transition. And as council has, a resume from Mr. Wisman in the packet. He is a CPA, an active CPA, still licensed in the state of Delaware. He's run several different accounting firms over the years and is still active here in town. Is there any further discussion or comments? Mr. Wisman is here tonight, I think that's all, yes.
I omitted the resume in the packet.
Is there no further discussion or questions? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. White.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. No, we're not one of those things. All right, the next is resolution 2024-11. A resolution to rename the contract position tourism and economic recovery coordinator to outreach coordinator and to revise other provisions of the contract. Whereas pursuant to resolution 2022-08, the City of Newcastle City Council earmarked the portion of its American Recovery Plan Act funding to create a one-year contract position, which it called the Tourism and Economic Recovery Coordinator. And whereas resolution 2022-08 also outlined the position's responsibilities, provided for a proportion of the earmarked funds to be used as a marketing budget for producing tourism-related materials, and appointed the city administrator to manage the contract position. And whereas the city entered into a contract with a contractor for a one-year term commencing July 1, 2023, and concluding on June 30th, 2024. And whereas the contractor has resigned effective February 29th, 2024, and whereas the city has identified a suitable replacement to complete the remainder of the contract term, but believes that it is in the best interest of the city and its business community to make certain revisions to the contract. Now therefore be it resolved. 1, that the contract position of Tourism and Economic Recovery Coordinator shall be renamed Outreach Coordinator to better reflect the intent of the position. 2, that any remaining funds from the $10,000 budget earmarked in Resolution 2022-08 for purchasing tourism-related materials may be used more broadly for direct expenses related to promoting and supporting Newcastle, including design, technical, advertising, subscription, and membership fees, printing and setup costs, etc. 3, that the outreach coordinator report to the mayor for the remainder of the contract term ending on June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion to consider this?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, after the motion.
I'll think so.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, before we start to discuss, I just want to sort of explain my rationale for some of these things. The first one, the change in the title, I think is self-explanatory, but if not, that could come out and discuss. The second one about the $10,000, it was very narrowly defined in the original. It basically only did print brochures, and that wasn't found to be effective. The first contract didn't use any of it to the best of my knowledge. And the new contractor has some ideas that broaden it. And also Mr. Mataway suggested potentially joining the Chamber of Commerce, and this broadens it so that membership fee could come out of this money. And finally, the change in who the coordinator reports to. I have 2 reasons for doing that. Number one, this is only for the remaining 3 months of the contract. I don't know if council's going to approve a new contract. We have a new city administrator coming in. She's going to have a lot on her plate. And I thought this was one thing that someone else could handle for those 3 months. And secondly, and I think more importantly, I got to thinking about it over the past several mayors, current mayor, Mayor Caranta, Mayor Reese when he was well, acted as sort of an ambassador for the city and promoting the city, so that seems to me a good fit for managing this position rather than the city administrator who's more concerned with the day-to-day personalities. So that's my rationale and
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to, I think the name makes sense because mostly because of economic, the recovery coordinator is in there, and I'm guessing at the time, post-COVID, it made sense. And if this is the name chosen, that's fine. I think the funds being redirected. I was just about to ask about membership fees, but thank you for clarifying that, because I wasn't sure what membership fees were about to, get into the city, because I didn't know what that meant. Oh, I guess, and Mayor Leary, because you were on council at that time, feel free to jump in here, as I'm asking the council. So I guess, Suzanne, Joe, and Valerie, when you guys were earmarking some of this stuff for like producing materials, what was the rationale? I guess I don't want to go away. I know that the position's almost over, so when I utilize it.
Producing a city brochure.
I'm saying there's for the 10,000 that was earmarked for materials to be produced.
Site redesign in there possibly, that again, brochures and other rap cards and stuff to go in there. You can't put rap cards out at a lot of places without paying a fee to do so. Those hotels and such don't allow you to stick them in there for nothing. So that was.
I was just making sure that we're not taking away from initial intent behind what this was meant to do.
doesn't really use the ability to use the money for those things, it simply broadens it. Because specifically mentioned, so we just broaden.
I guess what I'm saying is I didn't want to take out of the pot of money if it was meant to do certain things that we already had a quote on that was in that kind of area, but because now adding other things.
For those reasons.
Oh,
Use zero.
oh, okay.
So the original 10,000 that was
Still-
available for the usage is still 10,000.
Okay. And then Mayor raised the tourism. It's based, so, I can see why this is being moved to the mayor. My only concern there is city administrator is a person like David, they are paid by taxpayer money to look into anything that may arise day to day. And Mayor Leary may or may not have, it's not her job to do that. So very generous of you to be willing to do that. But I guess I'm saying, like, why are we moving it from a person who's already having that as part of their job, I guess.
I think the real crux of it is there's only a couple months left in it. And so anybody new that we bring on, or even if we wanted to re-sign the current one, it has to come before council with a new contract. We have to address that again, whether we keep it with the mayor, whether we bring it under the city administrator. So.
And I don't have any executive authority to direct a person to do one thing or another. If there was something that came up in question with Mr. Reeves and his team that involves something I don't have authority to do, I go talk to the city administrator, but she's not really gonna need this on her plate right now.
I'm not disagreeing that the city administrator have a lot already going on. I guess where I'm coming from is, in those 2 months, it almost seems like they're gonna work in silos, because by voting to move this reporting to you, we're almost saying you're too busy to even know what's happening here, but I don't think we should.
The basis, so I can convey to her what's going on.
Okay, those are my experience. I'm just bringing it up because that's what my job. Thank you.
And another thing that I will say, I think there was some dissatisfaction with the way this whole process worked after the first contract was appointed. And from talking to a number of people, I think at least a significant part of the problem was that we're fortunate in this town to have lots of volunteer organizations to run our various events. We have the Dan Old Newcastle Committee, we have the Newcastle Community Partnership that does a number of things. They probably do more than any other group, but they still don't cover everything. We have a separate committee running Spirit of Christmas. And so the contractor felt she had all these people pulling, why don't you do this? I think you should do that. You should do the other thing. Whereas the mayor's kind of at the center of it and can hopefully funnel the ideas and questions and concerns so that the contractor is able to work more effectively. Because too many bosses never goes well. And I think that's the way it's. And as we've said, it's only for 3 months. And we can see how it goes. If we decide to reinstate this position in the future, we can consider then whether who we want the contractor to report to, the mayor or the city administrator. That would be something.
Partnership gets paid to do it.
They don't, certainly don't get paid by the city.
I fully did. See here.
We do a grant where, they match the grant.
For specific,
For specific.
like the for signage, and
Yeah.
very specific, it's not just into the general.
Yeah, they, a matching.
Okay.
And they didn't notify anything last year, I see, did they? Yes. Okay.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? We ready to vote? Okay, all in favor? All right, we have one more. Final item for today is ordinance 546. This is the one to put us in compliance with the flood codes. It is the first reading only, so I will simply be reading it, and then next month there will be a public hearing and stuff. Ordinance 546, an ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle Code, Chapter 130, regarding buildings and structures in special flood hazard areas. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle, City Council, possesses the authority to adopt, amend, modify, or repeal the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, City Code. And whereas during the city's annual review for its flood insurance rating with the Community Rating System, CRS, it was brought to the city's attention that the city's code, section 130-20E, governing the elevation of mechanical systems in buildings and structures located in whole or in part in special flood hazard areas, does not currently meet the CRS Class 8 prerequisite, requiring mechanicals to be elevated at least 1 foot. And whereas to ensure that the city meets the prerequisite for CRS Class 8 status, which would entitle it to receive 100% of the freeboard credit available to CRS Class 8 communities for its flood insurance, City Code Section 130-20E must be amended. And whereas the city has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and its residents to secure CRS Class 8 status to obtain the flood insurance rates and discounts associated with such status. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Newcastle as follows. Section 1, City Code Chapter 130, Floodplain Management, Section 130-20, Buildings and Structures, is hereby amended as follows, with deleted text appearing in strike-through and new text appearing in bold. And Section E is omitted, and what is being omitted is the following. As an alternative to subsection D, electrical systems, equipment and components, and heating, ventilating, and air conditioning and plumbing, appliances, plumbing fixtures, duct systems, and other service equipment are permitted to be located below the elevation of the lowest floor provided they are designed and installed to prevent water from entering or accumulating within the components and to resist hydrostatic and hydrodynamic loads and stresses, including the effects of buoyancy during the occurrence of the base flood. Section 2, then this is not a, this is the new section, well, the continuance. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 3, in the event any existing ordinance or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. This ordinance shall become effective immediately and become passage. First reading, March 12th. I think that's good. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Yes.